My name is Jonathan Parks, and welcome to Jonathan's Nature Crafts. I must inform you that I do not live in this house by myself, but live here with other people. Sometimes other members of the household may have to walk through areas where I might be recording with other family members on the phone. If you hear any noise like that, please feel free to disregard. We are doing our best to get noise-canceling equipment, which may at least keep you from hearing exactly what is being said. Thank you for considering. Well, I just wanted to say that I probably told y'all before I'd be coming on here and showing you all these, but I'd say as many years ago as it was, it was back in 1999 and 2000. I was probably 19 when I started working on these and 20 when I finished them, but these are some little things I made on the scroll saw of the creatures in the Revelation. At that time, I was not familiar with all the different kinds of woods I was using. Some of them are even pieces of plywood, to that matter, like you'd probably use to make a door or a floor or a wall or something like that. So that was pretty much all I had. I had pieces of luan, I had pieces of pine, I had pieces of cherry. That was probably about all the woods I had that I pretty much knew the names of, but right here is the little one that is of a lion that I made back in those days, and they say that the creatures had 6 wings. Of course, one thing it also tells you is that they were covered with eyes in the front and in the back. It would have been a lot of work to have added all the eyes enough to cover these creatures, so I really didn't go that far, and I'll tell you all about this sometime later. But since I will say at least in the song that I recorded about it, I gave them in this order: a lion, an ox, a man, and a flying eagle. So I showed you the lion first, and now I will show you the ox. The ox at one time had horns, but I think, due to some moving around and some chipping of things, the horns kind of broke off or something, and I probably had to saw them the rest of the way off to make it look normal. So that's how the ox turns out. And again, I gave it the 6 wings out of the luan board, like I did all of these creatures in those days. And there was one that was of a man, like you see here. This one I could say by looking at it, I made the man from pine. And of course this part here was something which on all of them I made from pine. But that, like I said, will be discussed later, and I gave it 6 luan wings. Like I did all the creatures, just kind of had a certain pattern that was like 3 wings in one, and decided to cut out 2 and put 1 on each side. And last but not least, I've got the flying eagle here. Now, as for this one, I'd say you can probably see that, it has kind of a foot in the back and 1 foot it stands on. I kind of did that to try to make it stand more easily, but I'll tell you all first of all that I made half of this out of a piece of plywood, probably birch plywood. That was what I bought in those days, and kind of a little piece of pine at the top. I had no piece of wood at that time big enough to make the whole thing, and I wasn't as experienced in the work back then as I am now, so I just used whatever I had and kind of did this thing where I sort of made these little wings again, like 3 in 1 on each side, 6 altogether. And unfortunately it turned out that a little part of this kind of got chipped off too here. But I will say that these were just some pieces of pine that were just leftover scraps that just so happened to come out in this shape from something else that I was cutting out very many of to make and to paint. I don't remember what the other thing I was cutting out was. If I remember correctly, it was probably figures of Job. We can show those in another video. They're pretty funny, and I'd say that with all this, you know, it kind of happened that since I had all these pieces, and since none of these creatures could really stand up on their own, I decided to just kind of add these to them just to help them stand a little better. And in those days, you know, all I had was a scroll saw and some sandpaper, maybe some acrylic paints. I'd say maybe some little something similar to polyurethane, but it was actually clear spray paint that I would spray on things, and sometimes sprayed in the basement and cause the smell to fill the house. But here again, this was probably another one of those things that couldn't stand by itself, so I put these little things on here to be like little divine shapes to kind of hold it up. Kind of did the same with the man here, and did the same with the lion here. We always talked about some of this stuff, about how when I was first starting to study the Bible, which was around the time I was making these creatures, I was kind of, I'd say, just learning some things about how Ezekiel had a lot in common with the Revelation. And of course, my father and I had our discussions at the time about how the book of Daniel, of course, also had things in common with the Revelation in ways. So I've probably even seen a few things in Isaiah that did as well. So it's kind of a common thing for, you know, Old Testament prophecies to kind of have things in common with New Testament prophecies. Like, you know, in Ezekiel, he's asked to eat the scroll, and even in Revelation, so is John. So it's kind of something that kind of shows up two places in the Bible, unique, interesting ways. But I just also would like to say that, you know, since we just did the Ezekiel project and I talked about these Revelation creatures that I would eventually be coming on to show, just wanted to come on now and show them to you while we still have them. Maybe some of these other little Bible and Revelation things I've made will get on another time to show, but that's all for today. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I hope to see you in the next video. Stay tuned.